child of diplomats, and we were posted in Southeast Asia at the time, and took a lovely vacation to visit Delhi and Agra and Kashmir. At that time, foreigners could travel easily and stay on Dal Lake and visit that lovely part of the world. As Apurva said, I've also served for a number of years working in South Central Asia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, the last tour in Bangladesh. And I've worked for a period of 8 years, 3 different points in my life, based out of New Delhi. So I understand a little bit about South and Central Asia, and many people often ask me, so what have you seen that's changed over the years? And of course, many things have changed in terms of the population, in terms of economic growth, in terms of social opportunities. Some things haven't changed at all. The warmth of the people in these countries, the hospitality, and I'll pause briefly and welcome our mission director, Veena Reddy. Please, Veena. Okay, very good. So again, some things have not changed at all. When you look at civilizations that stretch back thousands of years, what else has not changed is that South Asia in particular remains such a dynamic place, so full of opportunity. And I would argue that the clean and renewable energy sector represents one of those sectors where there is great opportunity. The South Asia Clean Energy Forum focuses on the concept of partnership. It recognizes that none of us, whether from government, private sector, civil society, has sufficient resources to address all of these many opportunities. But it also recognizes the fact that by working together, by combining ideas and technologies and business models and the best and the brightest that our countries have to offer each other, that we can all learn from each other and have a much greater development impact driving forward clean and renewable energy within South Asia, across the Indo-Pacific, globally. We can all learn lessons from each other. And this spirit of partnership is reflected between our governments as well. In the US government, we work in a spirit of cooperation across the interagency. USAID, working with our colleagues from State Department and Department of Energy and Foreign Commercial Service and US Trade and Development Agency and others, working with multiple government agencies in India and other countries. Here, my office works most closely with the Ministry of Power, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, the Ministry of Railways, Niti Aayog, again, recognizing that by working together, we can make more efficient use of our resources and we can have a greater development impact. The leaders of our respective countries have signaled their intent. President Biden and Prime Minister Modi launched what's called the US-India Climate and Clean Energy 2030 Agenda Partnership. Again, in a spirit of partnership. And underneath that 2030 agenda, there are two main tracks: the Strategic Clean Energy Partnership and the Climate Action and Finance Mobilization Dialogue, each divided up into different pillar working groups. I'm so pleased that we have the Vice Chairman from Niti Aayog joining us today, because they co-chair one of these working groups along with USAID, focusing in on sustainable growth. How can we drive that clean energy transition, recognizing that that transition will have political, economic, technological, and social dimensions to it? And we're also joined today by our colleagues from the Department of Energy National Energy Labs. We had a soft launch yesterday of what's called the South Asia Group for Energy, which is USAID's continuing relationship with DOE National Labs, in this case, the National Renewable Energy Lab, Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and Pacific Northwest Lab. SAGE and the DOE labs have been working very, very closely with Niti Aayog under this sustainable growth pillar. We also, USAID, co-chairs the Renewable Energy Pillar Working Group under SCEP in association with the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And we co-chair the Adaptation and Resilience and Forestry Pillar Working Groups under the other track, the Climate Action and Finance Mobilization Dialogue. The point is, again, by all working together, by structuring our resources and bringing together our scientists, our researchers, our representatives from the private sector and civil society and government, we can drive forward the policy agenda, we can bring in new technologies, we can identify the best approaches to move forward with clean and renewable energy. We're also joined by Dr. Ajay Mathur, the Director General of the International Solar Alliance. The United States is a proud member, along with India, of ISA. And you'll be hearing more about ISA and Dr. Mathur's emphasis on renewable energy, which stretches back decades as well. We've had a close working association over the years in his various avatars, and it's wonderful to continue that close collaboration. So again, welcome to all of you to celebrate the spirit of partnership, to determine what collectively we can all do together to drive forward clean and renewable energy in South Asia. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, John, for setting this context. With that, this forum, South Asia Clean Energy Forum, is being organized under USAID's flagship program, the South Asia Regional Energy Partnership, or what we call as SAREP. So may I request the SAREP team to play a short video we have, so that it gives you a better glimpse of what SAREP program is all about. So may I request the team to just play the short video.
The energy revolution is here to help the world's green, resilient future with mitigation. The science of evidence is unequivocal for climate change impacting South Asia. A livable future for Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives starts at the level of action of each country's nationally determined commitments. Bangladesh has committed to reducing 22% carbon emissions by 2030. The royal government of Bhutan commits to continue to stay a carbon neutral and carbon negative country. Nepal's long term low greenhouse gas emission development strategy aims to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. India has committed 50% of its capacity from non-fossil energy sources by 2030 and reduce emissions by 45% from 2005 levels by 2030. Sri Lanka has committed to achieve 70% of renewable energy in electricity generation by 2030. The Maldives has committed to reducing 26% emissions by 2030. This kind of rapid emission reduction and transition to clean energy sources with equity will have South Asia rise to meet its global energy transformation goals as per SDG 7 set at the Paris Agreement to achieve UN SDG 13. The United States is committed to tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad, galvanizing efforts to keep the vital goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and reaching net zero emissions economy wide no later than 2050. Under Clean Edge Asia, enhancing development and growth through energy. The bedrock of USAID's relationship is helping partner countries develop clean energy, expand energy access, promote energy diversification, and power trade to strengthen energy security across the region, improving energy equity, and create green jobs. USAID works in South Asia through a range of mechanisms. 9 ways in which USAID supports South Asia's clean energy transition. Strengthens power reforms, including modernization of utilities and grids, to increase resource diversification for uninterrupted energy access. Mobilizes billions of dollars of investment, attracting private sector and development partners' capital in green funds to raise ambitions and empower action on decarbonizing energy supply. Supports country governments in shaping advanced policies and regulatory framework building capacity for market-friendly reforms and grid integration. Enhances partnerships for cross-border electricity trade, regional power markets, and energy cooperation in South Asia. Funds new technology and research on solar, biomass, and wind projects to support renewable capacities power market dominance to reduce fossil fuel dependencies. Promotes green hydrogen for energy end use sectors, including transportation, commercial, industrial, and residential. Contributes to the improvement of national policies and standards, and increases the impact of appliance energy, helping Indian Railways achieve its net zero targets by 2030. Additionally, supports efficiency programs and net zero energy buildings. Improves prospects of the electrification of the transport sector with new business models, infrastructure, and services. Prioritize human health, life, equity, and safety with a strong cross cutting focus on air quality and gender championing. With the assurance that extreme weather events, job losses, and economic challenges will not occur more frequently than they currently do, we can raise billions out of poverty and build a more confident future.
So I hope this video gave you a glimpse of USAID's efforts in South Asia in the clean energy transition space. With so maybe a big round of applause for this. With that, may I now request Veena Reddy, Mission Director, USAID India and Bhutan, to give her remarks. Veena joined USAID India as Mission Director in 2021, and she has worked in several missions in Asia, right from Southeast Asia to Central Asia. But before her federal government career, she was a corporate attorney in New York, London, and Los Angeles. So, Veena, over to you.
Thank you, Apurva. Good morning and welcome. It is truly a privilege and honor to be part of this event in the presence of the Honorable Cabinet Minister of Power and Renewable Energy, Shri R.K. Singh. We'll soon be joined by our Chargé d'Affaires at the U.S. Embassy, Ms. Patricia Lucina, and of course the Vice Chairman of the Ayog, Shri Suman Berry. Um, I understand Secretary Ministry of Power, Shri Alok Kumar, Secretary Minister of New and Renewable Energy, Shri B.S. Bala, and Director and General of International Solar Alliance, Dr. Ajay Mathur. On behalf of USAID, I'm delighted to welcome you to the launch of the South Asia Clean Energy Forum. And also build upon my colleague's comments, Mr. John Smith-Sreen. This, we hope, is the first of many, and SACEF is an important regional knowledge-sharing platform for the clean energy sector in South Asia. Today's event marks a significant milestone in the region's power sector as we gather to share ideas and collaborate on innovative solutions to address the pressing challenges of the clean energy transition in South Asia. This is of considerable significance for the region, reminding us all of the important role that working together can play to advance clean energy transition in our respective countries and collectively. The presence of India's leadership, as well as representatives from South Asian governments here today, is a testament to the importance of regional cooperation in achieving our shared goals of reliable, affordable, and sustainable clean energy for all citizens. With the launch of SACEF, we plan to create a space for enhanced collaboration and knowledge sharing among clean energy professionals in the region, people like you. USAID is proud of our longstanding partnerships with the governments of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, particularly in the energy sector. And today's event builds on those partnerships and is a landmark occasion for clean energy transition in the region. Our support is a reflection of the U.S. government's continued commitment to the Indo-Pacific region, as set out in the government's Indo-Pacific strategy, launched in February of last year, and is reiterated by remarks from President Biden. And this forum will reinforce the region's capacity and resilience to address the challenges uh, and opportunities of the 21st century, showing that we can build back a better future together. An important part of building back, important part of building a better future together is our support towards an affirmative vision for economic cooperation and our work to accelerate the clean energy transition across South Asia through our South Asia Regional Energy Partnership, which you recently saw the video on. We're engaging at both the national and subnational government levels with policymakers, regulators, and the private sector. Over the years, we've learned that many countries face similar issues, and a joint effort in addressing these challenges can be more effective in finding solutions. Therefore, SACEF is designed as a platform for knowledge exchange and collaborative solutions. This regional forum will enable collaboration towards building shared insights and adopting new and disruptive technologies at a speed and scale necessary to meet our shared climate goals. While the formal and informal channels of communication established during our time together will also facilitate collaboration on common issues. We hope that this forum will overcome challenges by learning from each other's experiences, while new relationships will emerge from these days together, which will accelerate the clean energy transitions for the benefit of all. I want to express my gratitude to the Government of India for supporting the first SACEF assembly here in Delhi. A special thanks to USAID South Asia Regional Energy Partnership for working alongside all of these governments in the region, and to the USAID missions both in India and in each of the countries represented for their active participation and support. It is our hope that this will be the first of an ongoing series of annual events held in different participating countries each year on a rotating basis. I wish you great success on your deliberations this week, and I hope you enjoy your time in the vibrant metropolis of New Delhi. Thank you.
Thank you, Veena, for your remarks. With that, we move on to the next dignitary, Dr. Ajay Mathur, a person not unknown to most of us. We very well know him, but he's the Director General of International Solar Alliance. But our association at USAID, of course, goes back when he was Director General of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and we've had the pleasure of working with him on several initiatives while he was at B and then as Director General of TERI. So, Dr. Mathur, without any further ado, please.
Thanks, Apurva. Vice Chairman Berry, Sharjah Affairs Lasina, Director Smith Sreen, Director Reddy, and friends of many years and new friends as well. It's a delight to be here. It's a delight for many reasons. One, we are getting together at, in a sense, the right time. It's the right time because in all the South Asian countries, there is a crying demand to move beyond the existing formulations for increasing energy use. For example, in Bhutan, we have the use of hydro. But what happens in the winter months? In the winter months, they import thermal energy, expensive thermal energy from India to meet their needs. This is clearly moving in the wrong direction. And very clearly, the government of Bhutan is committed to seeing how they can convert this into green energy so that they can continue to be a green electricity producer and user. Look at Bangladesh. This was the home where the first solar home system large scale commercialization occurred. But the availability or the lack of availability of space means that there is very little space for large solar farms. Yet, it is committed to reducing its emissions by 22% by 2030. We look at Maldives, where there is a huge challenge because, one, of course, it's islands, and two, there are outlying resorts in a number of islands. How do you meet their energy needs? We look at the villages of Nepal spread all over and see how do we provide electricity to all of them. In Sri Lanka, we have seen how fuel imports can become a tense political issue. In other words, in all these countries, renewables form the basis of how do we move ahead and meet the current energy needs of the future. And for reasons which are completely separate from climate change. Climate change is the fraud, the additional push that pushes us towards using clean energy and renewable energy as a goal. So, how do we meet these energy needs of these various countries? We look at large solar farms, particularly floating solar, as a way of meeting solar demand, clean energy electricity demand in countries as diverse as Bangladesh and Maldives. We look at solar mini grids as providing electricity into the villages of Nepal, into the villages of Bhutan. We look at solar pumps providing irrigation into the to the farmers of Sri Lanka, of Nepal, and so on. We look at electric transport reducing the fuel imports into countries such as Sri Lanka and others. I would argue that in all of these things, there is a lot being done in where you are in India and in Delhi. As far as tariffs from large scale solar farms is concerned, clearly there is a story that needs to be told, that needs to be adopted. As far as solar mini grids are concerned, the regulations that we have in UP and Bihar are worth emulating. The issue is that solar and renewables provide answers to questions of here and now energy challenges. All of these also require batteries. And I think the aggregation of all the US national labs, or at least some of them, as is being envisaged in, say, SAGE 2, provides us with a way of moving ahead. SAGE has been immensely successful. SAGE 1, if I can call it that, was immensely successful. It provided the kind of detailed information that was needed. I will also argue that that information very much depended on the readiness of the user. Sometimes we were ready and sometimes we were not. I will therefore argue that we also need to create associations of people across the South Asian geographies to help prepare them for the future. What can these partnerships look like? I would argue that USAID knows this very well. And I look back, I think it was the late 1990s that the South Asia Partnership for Infrastructure Regulation, SARI, was created. That has grown. It has meetings, it's institutionalized. I think that provides an excellent way of moving ahead. I think, John, I'm looking at you. In your role as the director of the IPO, IPO does not stand for Initial Public Offering, which is what I thought it was. It stands for the Indo Pacific Office. I think through the IPO, it can become a very effective tool to help bring together the best practices that we have across the region. I would suggest that quick access, and I emphasize the word quick access to information regarding the various actions and best practices in renewable energy that are emerging needs to be brought together. I emphasize the word quick because we were developing a similar kind of an information portal on green hydrogen, where we were putting together the best practices that we could find from the world, best practices in manufacturing, best practices in utilization, in trade, in regulation, in methodologies, in standards. But the key issue was, how do you find the information that you need? And therefore, we have shamelessly moved to this new technology of artificial intelligence called, what is it called? Chat GPT. I remember that. And used AI based chatbots to help people steer through these portals. I strongly recommend that our challenge today is not putting information together, but the ability to retrieve the information that you need with the least amount of effort that it takes. The second issue that I would like to flag is the need to get business leaders together. Just as you've put regulators together, I think you need to bring together business leaders. I know that this happens, but I think it will be good if it can be done under an institutionalized manner. Now, what the ISA did was, it's a long story. Uh, Solar sector pulled in a huge amount of investment in 2021, something of the order of $250 billion globally, but only 5% of it went to Africa. And therefore, we were looking at the challenge of how do we increase that. And apart from increase, the issue was who will develop the projects. If you bring the money there, you need people. In a very similar manner, therefore, what we've started doing is started identifying potential startups, not potential, but startups who look at 10 problem areas in the solar sector. This is an ongoing process. 31st March was the last day by which people could put in applications. We received about 180 applications, 182 to be exact, and we will choose 20 of them. I would strongly suggest that we need to do something similar as far as South Asia is concerned. Bring together this ecosystem of business model startups, because very clearly business models will change from place to place and sector to sector. I was delighted to see in the film what you're doing on charging stations for electric transport. What we have been able to do is come to the point where both for two-wheelers and for four-wheelers, the electric technology on a life cycle cost basis costs less than internal combustion engines. But the charging infrastructure is a place where all the countries in the region are still challenged. I have an electric car, but I don't drive it to Lucknow because there are no charging stations on the way. I'd love to see a model that enables these charging to occur. I would love it even more if you can develop business models which help electric vehicles to charge in rural areas so that we can move the two-wheelers that are used in rural areas to electric transport. And last but not least, I would suggest that one of the areas that has started coming back on the agenda is energy security. It is important. And especially after the attack of Russia on Ukraine, we have seen that energy security has at times worked against clean energy. We cannot allow that to happen. And consequently, all those all those investments, all those applications where clean energy can provide energy security would be useful. I argue that energy security is particularly important as far as reducing energy imports is concerned. And consequently, reducing energy imports with clean energy solutions, to me, seems to be the way we move to the future. I want to thank USAID for putting together this meeting. I look forward to further collaboration, and I look forward hearing all of you. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. It's always, whenever we hear you, some new ideas emerge. You keep inspiring us with new thoughts. Some of the ideas that you just said, I'm sure we will take them forward and we will deliberate with you separately again to see how we can take them forward under our South Asia efforts. With that, we've come to that phase where we would be launching the phase two or the next phase of our initiative in South Asia, USAID's initiative, which is called South Asia Group for Energy. In short, we call it SAGE. And for this, may I request, John is already here. May I request Rajnath Ram, Advisor Energy from Niti Aayog, to please join us on the stage for the launch. Uh, also, may I invite Dylan Jones from the Department of Energy, U.S. Embassy here, if he's here. David Palchak from NREL, and Meredith Evans from PNNL to join us on the stage for the SAGE launch. So, can I also request the fact sheet and report from the SAGE 1 to be brought on stage here? May I request all the dignitaries on the stage to release the fact sheet and the report from SAGE Phase 1, which showcases the institutional framework for renewable energy forecasting, a milestone in our collaborative efforts to shape a sustainable energy future for South Asia. May we have a round of applause for this? Yeah. So now we have officially launched the South Asia Group for Energy, SAGE Phase 2. And we will follow this up with a special video presentation which showcases our collective vision for a sustainable and innovative energy future in the region. So m- may I request Honorable Vice Chairman to please launch the video as well.
South Asia is transforming how its energy systems can meet growing demand while responding to the impacts of climate change. The challenge of reshaping South Asia's energy systems to be more sustainable, reliable, and resilient requires leadership, innovation, and strategic decision making. The South Asia Group for Energy, or SAGE, is a consortium of the U.S. Agency for International Development and three U.S. Department of Energy national labs: Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. SAGE unlocks access to the best in class expertise that can advise South Asia on its most complex energy challenges and enhance the region's energy security, environmental protection, and resilience to climate change. This new phase of SAGE builds upon years of successful cooperation between USAID, the US national labs, and stakeholders across South Asia. SAGE's team works side by side with public and private sector partners on cutting edge energy modeling, analysis, and workforce training designed to strengthen and build capacity with South Asia's technical institutions, improve energy and climate planning and policy, and advance adoption and deployment of new and evolving technologies. SAGE is ready to support South Asia's clean energy transition on its path to climate resilience.
So now we have the privilege of having the Charge d'Affaires U.S. Embassy India, Ms. Patricia A. Lassner here. She is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service class of Minister Counselor. And before joining here, she was the Counselor General at the U.S. Consulate in Frankfurt, Germany. She served in several positions as a career diplomat. May I request CDA here to give her special remarks?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Um, Distinguished participants and guests, good morning to everyone. It's really my honor to be here today, joining dignitaries from the Government of India and South Asian countries and global experts for this 2-day South Asia Clean Energy Forum focused on catalyzing partnerships for the clean energy transition. On behalf of the United States, I thank all of you for your long-standing partnerships to drive action for climate change and economic growth in South Asia. The U.S. government is committed to fostering regional stability, deepening strategic partnerships, and supporting the individual sovereignty and regional connectivity of nations within the region. These goals are reflected in the U.S. National Security Strategy and the Indo Pacific Strategy, and in the work of agencies such as USAID, the United States Agency for International Development. We are here today to advance the pressing issue of transitioning to clean energy across South Asia. As President Biden has said, climate change is an existential threat to the world. Climate change is the biggest risk to human health and the global economy. It threatens social and economic progress, exacerbating global inequities, increasing water and food scarcity, requiring more humanitarian assistance, displacing people, and the loss of livelihoods. It also contributes to social tension and conflict and threatens critical infrastructure. Since 2000, climate related disasters have affected almost 4 billion people, with an estimated cost of more than 2.2 trillion US dollars. Here in South Asia, climate change is influencing the frequency and intensity of national disasters. In 2020 and 2021, nearly 40% of climate related disasters worldwide occurred in Asia and the Pacific. The risks to human health and well being from climate related disasters are all too real. If no action is taken, the economic losses could rise to approximately 18% of GDP by 2050. We must act now. This is why the Biden Harris administration is elevating climate change as a core priority for U.S. foreign policy. While the South Asia region is at the epicenter of the climate crisis, it also has a central role to play in solving the crisis. Indeed, the world is counting on the region to lead on addressing climate change. The region is home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world. Energy plays a vital role in the region's accelerated growth, which has led to an explosive need and high energy demand. Reducing the energy sector's carbon emissions is key to climate action, and ensuring access to reliable, clean, and affordable energy is critical to the economic future, health, and well being of almost 2 billion people that call this region home. Currently, South Asian countries are net importers of fossil fuels. This makes them vulnerable to geopolitical shocks and crises, as well as to the impacts of climate related disasters. The countries of this region have set clean energy targets. To meet those targets, we must work together. We need to work in partnership to improve storage technologies and to commercialize carbon capture and green hydrogen technologies, especially in hard to decarbonize industries. The good news is that clean energy solutions are already cheaper compared to alternate fossil based energy solutions. Clean energy also offers enormous potential for job creation and economic growth while reducing the major health burden of air pollution. For South Asia, the U.S. sees three important policy priorities. One, to foster greater private sector participation using innovative financing schemes and private public partnerships. Two, to build capacity and knowledge. And three, to strengthen regional cooperation. The United States is proud of its partnerships around the region and is constantly looking for ways to enhance our collaboration and work together across the region and the globe. I'm pleased to note that these partnerships have already achieved success on each of these three priorities. For example, here in India, under USAID's South Asia Regional Energy Partnership, we collaborate with Indian Railways to help it achieve its 2030 net zero carbon target, build capacity in advanced technologies, and facilitate the adoption of innovative financing mechanisms. Our engagement with Energy Efficiency Services Limited, the world's largest public energy service company, is enabling net zero programs in India and other Asian countries. In Bhutan, our partnership has helped the nation bridge its seasonal power shortages by extending support for procurement of electricity from Indian power exchanges for the very first time. Bhutan's purchase of nearly 700 million units from the Indian market since January 2022 is a testimony to the success of our regional partnership for promoting energy security. Similarly, in Nepal, our partnership focuses on enabling the use of new and innovative methods to mobilize finance for clean energy technologies, among other results. This support encompasses capacity building of various government financiers to appraise projects for loan dispersals and to raise financing from domestic and foreign investors. Through our other regional efforts, we are enabling modernization of power utilities in South Asia by establishing regional platforms for cooperation and the sharing of best practices. One such platform is the South Asia Distribution Utility Network, which was recently launched by Minister Singh. I'm also delighted to announce today the launch of the second phase of the South Asia Group for Energy, a consortium consisting of USAID, the United States Department of Energy, and three Department of Energy national laboratories: the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. The South Asia Group for Energy represents excellence in U.S. research and international cooperation in the energy sector. It will partner with the governments of South Asia to support implementation of research analysis and capacity building activities focused on energy sector opportunities throughout South Asia. This South Asian Clean Energy Forum is an effort to provide a platform for further strengthening partnerships to drive the energy transition across South Asia. I look forward to successful engagement and deliberations over the next 2 days. I also look forward to this forum being hosted in other South Asian countries in the coming years as we strive to achieve our mutual goals. We all have a responsibility, institutionally and individually, to transform climate challenges into opportunities to build a safer, more secure world. Collectively, we are all part of the solution. This forum is an excellent step in achieving that solution. Thank you all for being here today, for your continued leadership, your commitment and partnership in tackling the threat of climate change, and for being part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, CD Lesina, for your very, very inspiring remarks. With that, we are very honored to have with us the Honorable Vice Chairman, Niti Aayog, Sri Suman Beriji, from Government of India. He's the rank and status of a cabinet minister, and he's a very experienced policy economist and a research administrator. He took over Niti Aayog as the vice chairman in 2022, but he was also a senior visiting fellow at the Center for Policy Research, New Delhi, a global fellow in the Asia program of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in Washington, and a non-resident fellow at Bruegel, an economic policy research institution in Brussels. Sir, please.
Um, Thank you for that introduction. And let me acknowledge the presence of friends and new acquaintances on the podium, and many my own colleagues from Niti Aayog and representatives from elsewhere in South Asia. Um, Let me just start by saying that it's been a year for me at NITI. I was fortunate that in that year, um, physical events have started to become possible again after a long drought. But 1 year is not enough to know the full range of NITI's activities and commitments, and therefore it was only in preparation for this event that I became aware of the central role of NITI as part of this initiative. I say this initiative because, frankly, the whole cascading of alphabet soup in this area is such that I'm not quite sure what initiative we're talking about here. But NITI is glad to be part of it. Anyway, second, I came to energy via my stewardship of an Indian think tank, the National Council of Applied Economic Research. And those were as it were, the budding days of global concern for climate change. I was at NCAR when the Copenhagen summit COP took place, and we know that was a nascent moment in the world's realization and journey uh, towards recognizing the seriousness of the mitigation and adaptation challenges. That um, resulted, amongst other things, or an awareness of both the energy security issues and the mitigation issues, led me to accept the job as chief economist of Shell, and to do work on Indian energy uh, um, from Shell. That then led me to this tenure at the Wilson Center, which of course is based in the Ronald Reagan building, which is where USAID has its headquarters. And that's also where I came across Charlie Ebinger, who at Brookings had been arguing for a long time that South Asia's energy future lay in regional integration. So these ideas of the need for other reasons, but accentuated by, as it were, the green transition, for there to be regional integration of energy systems across South Asia, goes back at least a dozen years. But it's good to, as it were, see it provided expression over here. Now, I've just returned from a speaking tour in the United States, and Jeff Pyatt, who used to be, I believe, at the here at the time of Bob Blake, he reached out to me, and he's in the State Department, basically making the point that as we consider uh, uh, critical technologies, the issue of the supply chain for renewables might also form part of the discussion on uh, what does ISET stand for again? Critical and emerging technologies. To my knowledge, as of now, energy is not part of it, but I'm not speaking now as a representative of the government, but just to say that the issue of collaborating on green technologies, this is, of course, in a bilateral setting, not necessarily in a regional setting, is something that I think should underpin the relationship between India and the United States. But this then links the SAGE 2, as I understand it, which is that at the end of the day, the fundamental research on dealing with both the technologies and, as it were, the challenges, particularly grid challenges, that are involved as the share of renewables rise, is very much cutting edge research that the energy laboratories are going to be undertaking. And much in the way that I that we went down the cost curves with solar, first by feed-in tariffs in Germany, and then after that, uh, the production incentives, such as they were in China. I'm certain that the investment that takes place in the US under the Inflation Reduction Act will be a very important spur to pushing us down cost curves in not only renewable technologies, but also grid management, the issue of batteries that Ajay Mathur raised. And I would have hoped that India would be part of the transmission mechanism of some of that learning, including through private investment into the region. Finally, let me say, because I think my allotted time is 10 minutes, that NITI is um, charged with looking at important initiatives like the green transition in a holistic way, which is to say, not just technology and not just en- uh, the supply side of clean energy, but the whole complex of technology, finance, but also regulation and behavior. And I think that uh, I need to understand better whether those softer dimensions of the green transition would also be comprehended by initiatives such as this. I've been um, I should also perhaps at this point mention that while this conference is about uh, our engagement cross-boundary, NITI has an well, a more fundamental role in thinking about the energy transition at the level of India's states. And so, therefore, refracting from the learnings of this and other groups to what that means in terms of state by state transition strategies, in terms of employment strategies, in terms of fiscal strategies, that is part of a much larger enterprise, but where, as I visited US campuses, there's a lot of work going on. So I just wanted to say that this is one part of a much larger engagement, I think, between US academia, US labs, US think tanks, and the Indian and indeed regional establishment. And I, I would just commit Niti to being very actively engaged in all of that. With that, let me thank you for including NITI as part of these various government pillars. Thank my colleagues for cooperating with AID and other parts of the US government, and let me wish the event every success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your special inaugural address, and also thank you, sir, for continuing to, build on the relationship that we already have with Niti Aayog, not just in the energy space, where Niti Aayog heads the Sustainable Growth Pillar under the U.S. Strategic Clean Energy Partnership, but also in several other areas like health, education, where USAID and U.S. government is engaged with Niti Aayog. So thank you, sir. With that, to mark the beginning and the launch of the first South Asia Clean Energy Forum, which we hope to establish as a practice every year on an annual basis in the coming years, may I request all the dignitaries to please join us for the lighting of the lamp as a traditional ritual that we follow. Sir. Uh, May I request all the dignitaries to please join us on the stage again? May I now request my colleague Anurag Mishra, Senior Clean Energy Specialist at USAID India, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. I will be really brief. I know everybody has to leave. So, as we embark on this journey of learning and collaboration through this forum, just keep in mind that importance of working together across the energy sector and also the other sectors which are dependent on energy for meeting the demand on the development of the region. We hope this session provided us some good insights, and I'm really delighted to have all of the dignitaries here on the dais. So I'd like to thank them, starting with the Honorable Vice Chair, Mr. Suman Berry. May I request my colleague, uh, Mr. John Smith Serene, to present him with the planter. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, today. Next, may I request Monali Hazra to present bouquet to Shahjeh. Patricia. May I request Dr. Rakesh Goel, Chief of Party for the SAREP program, to hand over the planters to Dr. Ajay Mathur. May I request Namrata Mukherjee from the South Asia Energy Partnership to hand over the planter to Ms. Veena Reddy. And Sumed Agrawal to present the planter to Ross Mystery. Thank you so much. So with this, we conclude the opening session, and I'll welcome you to join for the tea and coffee, and we'll be convening back in 10 minutes. Thank you so much.